Hi everybody, this is Julie and JP.
Hey, how you doing? We're driving.
We are actually headed over to see Jill Stein speak in Berkeley today. So we're caught in Bay Area traffic. We decided to get a zip car. She starts at noon, so we're headed over there now. We're on the bridge.
Yeah, everybody talks about how bad LA traffic is. It's much worse in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
Much
take
worse.
a look at this.
This is the Bay Bridge. It's 10:30.
10:30
Sorry,
in the
no,
morning.
11:15.
Or 11:15 in the morning on a Friday.
And it's bumper to bumper practically. So this is why we don't have a car.
Right. So, but I'm actually going live because I just read an article by Shaun King. Shaun King is, he's got 1.5 million followers on Facebook, so most people know who he is. He was a Bernie Sanders surrogate during the primaries last year. He spoke out for Black Lives Matter. He writes for the New York Daily News, and he's just recently been brought on board with the Young Turks. So he's very well known. So he writes this article entitled "The Democratic Party Doesn't Realize Why It's So Unpopular." And, you know, I just felt like I wanted to sort of quickly respond to that and just, I don't know, give it a different framework. And go ahead and jump in anytime you want, JP.
Okay.
First of all, there's still this idea that the Democratic Party cares whether it's popular or not. They really don't care. They don't care if they're popular. They don't care if they're well liked. Both parties have no interest in the betterment of society and in making the population, supporting the population. Exactly. They really don't care. So this idea that he's writing it from this perspective of like, why don't they understand? Well, not only do they fully understand, they really don't care. For them, it's not a popularity contest. It's all about money. It's all about, making sure that they hoard the money all the way up for themselves and for, again, the deep state and the shadow government that is comprised of oligarchs and billionaires and millionaires, and, they want to hoard all that money. So it really doesn't matter if we, the pets and the slaves of this nation, think they're unpopular or not. That they don't care. So you can write every article from your liberal perspective all you want, and it's basically just going to be the equivalent of pissing in the wind. They really don't care about you. They don't care if they're unpopular, and I just can't drive that point home enough.
So trying to change it from within is a ridiculous premise.
Yeah, so you can't change it from within. You can't go into a party that already has the systems in place to keep you down. You can't change that. So that's one perspective that I'd like to respond to his article with. Another perspective is have any of you people who voted for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or still believe that Obama is not a sociopath and he actually is a good guy and he's super folksy and all that, have you even bothered to research and study the opposition party and what it's comprised of? Do you realize that Donald Trump has more followers on Facebook than Bernie Sanders? And he probably always has. Do you realize that those constituents that comprise the Republican Party, which are the evangelical Christians, they follow the biggest magical thinker out there, Franklin Graham, who's on record as saying that Donald Trump was ordained by God and is a direct descendant from King David in the Bible. Do you realize he's got 5 million followers on Facebook? That's 5 million people that bought into this magical thinking
bullshit.
Absurd. You know, they believe that. We on the coasts live in a bubble. We live in a complete echo chamber, in a complete bubble. So when I read articles like this from the New York Daily News that say the Democratic Party just doesn't understand why it's so unpopular. Oh, believe me, they fully understand. They totally understand. In fact, they understand so much they don't give a shit. Thinking population that put this particular figurehead in office is what is comprised of this country. A country that believes in magical thinking. A country that
believes that Davos is a good person. She's doing the right thing.
That Betsy DeVos is doing the right thing. A country that says that also, you know, much like the Democratic Party, the Republican or the Democratic constituents, the Republican constituents also have cognitive dissonance. So there's one part of their brain that says, you know, we need to, what was that saying that Donald Trump said? Clean the...
Oh, yeah, drain the swamp.
We need to drain the swamp because politicians are bad. So, you know, and then they have a diametrically opposed belief system that they also embrace, which is that God will take care of it and we don't need to pay our taxes. Or it's just this bizarre disconnect. And so ultimately what this constituency doesn't want to do is pay taxes. Well, as a result of that, if you don't pay your taxes, or if your taxes get cut, which they haven't, only tax cuts, the only people that have seen any tax cuts during this legislation are more of the same of what Barack Obama did, which is, you know, give tax cuts to the rich, whereas the middle class, which is basically being assaulted. It's not only that it's diminishing, but they're going after the middle class. The middle class constituents are finding that their taxes are being raised. And yet, there's crumbling infrastructure all around, and there's no jobs, and they don't have a healthcare system in place that works for everyone. And their public education institutions are being defunded. You know, they don't have working roads, they don't have working factories, and yet their taxes are being raised. So there is such a cognitive dissonance and such a disconnect. You and I understand that, you know, because we're policy focused people, and we do live in the parts of the country that really try as much as we can to hold our politicians' feet to the fire and make them work on behalf of the citizenry and the population. But the majority of the country does not understand that concept. They actually believe a lie that is being told. They believe that when Donald Trump parades out in front of the population and says, you know, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I want what's best for the people. They actually believe him. He's lying. We all know that. So...
yeah, he's the biggest huckster around, and people have bought into it, even though they think that he's crude and crass and all these other adjectives that describe the man. They still go, yeah, but he's, you know, going to do something great for the country. Well, he's not. And the other thing, too, is he's just a front man for something that's more sinister going on in the background.
Right. So the goal is to keep the population dumbed down and to keep them distracted. And so Shaun King, this article is also a distraction. The Democratic Party doesn't understand or doesn't realize why it's so unpopular. Well, that article basically tells me that you act like they give a shit. You act like they care if they're unpopular. It's a complete full false premise. Like, first of all, let's back up a little bit and get it straight. Both parties are the same. They are under the same control. Which is again, it's a cabal, a small cabal of the ultra elite, the ultra wealthy, the ultra connected, and both parties are the same. And their goal is to stay rich and wealthy, while the rest of us are just placated. So. And then I guess the third point that I'm going to make in this is that the Democratic Party, like I said yesterday in the park, the Democratic Party only makes up 23% of the population. And within that 23%, it's fractured as well. So do you think that the lowest, weakest, most ineffective party in the country really gives a shit about why they're so unpopular? Do you really think that they care? I mean,
no, they don't, because okay, so here's something too. You know, they're unpopular with the voters, but they still have the ear of all the media out there. They still have a lot of money to support them. That's why they're able to hold down alternative parties like the Green Party or independents, and that's why they're able to control the message going across in the media, stating that Russia was responsible for hacking into the elections when there's no evidence whatsoever to support that. The fact is that they had a crappy candidate, which they didn't seem to care, and they also did everything in their power to undermine her candidacy. So they've blamed plenty of other people before they've come to Russia, and so when you look at their whole track record and what they're trying to say, seeing that they're an unpopular party, it stands to reason that they don't care, but because they have the money and they have the influence.
exactly. So this article, it totally misses the point, in my opinion.
Right.
I love Shaun King. I think he's a great activist. I think he's a great person. I'm not upset that he wrote the article. I just think that, again, there's that lack of critical thought. Again, you think that the party cares and that you can change the party from within, and you can't. You just can't. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and sign off now, and because we're in Berkeley, and we're going to go listen to somebody who actually does care and actually does have solutions, but who the media gives absolutely no coverage to.
Or they disparage her altogether.
Or they disparage her altogether. So we voted for her. We're very proud that we voted for her. We know that we're on the right side of history, and we're going to be going and seeing her in a couple of minutes. So enjoy your Friday. We'll try to check in, at least once more during the weekend as more of these things unfold. Have an excellent day. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.